Did you see the stylish kids?
Welcome to the Young IPA podcast. I'm James, this is Pete.
G'day, everyone.
Now, it is the 23rd of January, and this is episode 142. Loaded show coming up. Because here's what we got. We've got Dr. Anthony Dillon on the show, and we've also got Dr. Bella DeBrera on the show, and also sitting next to us for the people watching on YouTube. So two doctors. Pete, we are learned scholars.
Wow.
And we keep counsel with other learned scholars.
I hadn't thought about this week, but yeah, we have got two doctors on the show, and we better lift our game.
We have lifted our game because we are learned scholars, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, pick us up. All right, and it is going to be an Australia Day themed episode. There's a lot that we need to discuss, which is why we've got Bella on at the start of the show, because the IPA commissioned a poll on people's attitudes towards Australia Day, and it's come back, and we'll talk about that. And then we're also going to be talking to Dr. Anthony Dillon about, you know, the fact that the only thing that gets brought up when you talk about Indigenous affairs every year is Australia Day. Yep. So what are those issues that we should be talking about? And Anthony is awesome as always on that. We've got a bunch of other stuff on the show. Anything you're looking forward to, Pete?
Mate, I sort of always say my hero to this question, but I do like my hero this week. He's going to be great.
Okay, fantastic.
Ooh, gave it away.
That it is male. But all right, so we'll figure out who that is soon. But Dr. Bella DeBrera, she's with us right now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back.
Thank you. And you're also on the quiz, which is something we're all looking forward to. But let's talk about it because the poll comes back in. We get a whole bunch of media on it. We'd even do a video, which I think we have a taste of right now.
71% of us want to continue to celebrate Australia Day on the 26th of January. So, on this day, the 26th of January, enjoy being free. Happy Australia Day.
And let's talk about some of the stats, because the stats, as I see them, the main ones, 71% of Australians support Australia Day being celebrated on January 26. Only 11% think the date should actually be changed, with everyone else sort of being, I don't know. Even more interesting to me was it was 57% of young people support keeping the date where it is, and only 18% of young people want to think about, so only 18% of people want it changed, which is definitely not the media narrative, which every year, which shows that, like, you know, the media would have you believe that all young people just want it changed immediately, but it's actually 57%. So, Bella, what are your main takeaways from this poll?
Yes, so my main takeaways are that it just exposes this huge divide that is very evident in Australian society, in English society, in American society, where you have the general populace thinking one way and a very vocal and very activist elite minority thinking another way. And what I find interesting about the Australia Day poll is that we're told throughout the year how bad we are. We're told that we have to think badly of ourselves. It's this kind of, you know, scourging ourselves about how terrible we are, how terrible our history is, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It is not working, because every year that we do the poll, it comes back majority of Australians, mainstream Australians, are proud to be Australian, proud of our history. You know, people aren't walking around, you know, hanging their heads in shame.
Yeah, I'll give those stats. So it's 71% of people believe Australia has a history to be proud of, only 13% disagree, and 70% believe there should be less political disagreement about Australia Day, and only 11% disagree. And it just, like, it keeps going around that same sort of mark, where there's only like 11 of 15% of people that want the day changed, that think Australia has to be ashamed of its history and aren't proud to be Australian. So, Pete, did you have anything you want to throw in?
I'm with Bella. I think it's really pleasing when you get results like this and you think, oh, it's great that people aren't ashamed to be Australian. Now, Bella, you, as a result of this poll, our Prime Minister was asked about Australia Day. Did that make you feel pumped that you'd made such big impact? And what did you make of his response?
Oh, I was really pleased. I was really chuffed, to say it in a very non-Australian way. The fact that, you know, the poll was mentioned on, I think, was it Sunrise? Sunrise? And he was right. He just said that there is no debate, and he's right. There is no debate. The Australians aren't debating whether they like Australia Day, whether that should be kept. It's just this, we're basically pushing it back against this narrative. And I think one of the most impressive results is that 85% of Australians are proud to be Australian. That's a huge number. And that's the same across all age groups. That wasn't just, 65 plus. That was 18 to 24-year-olds. As I say in the film, 82% of them are proud to be Australian. So that's a complete, opposite to this narrative that we keep hearing about how young people are pessimistic and they hate the country and they want to go and live somewhere else. And it's a lie, basically.
So with Scott Morrison now being asked about your question, we have a new entry into famous people that have or we most likely have engaged with Bella DeBrera content. So we have now Scott Morrison with this. We have the Queen reads the Times, I think it was.
Yes,
Bella had an article in the Times. There's a third one I'm forgetting.
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
That's right.
All right, sorry,
Yeah.
rank them. Queen, Jordan Peterson,
Ooh,
Scott
so
Morrison.
easy. Queen.
Yeah.
Jordan
Number one.
Peterson. Queen, Jordan Peterson.
What's the gap between Queen
Scott
and Jordan
Morrison.
Peterson?
It's
Like, do I need a bus to get to between them? Can
you
I
need a
walk
jet.
it?
You
Is
need
it
a private jet.
Private jet.
Yeah.
Not even a regular jet.
no a private jet.
We're landing in something that's not an officially
Lots of
sanctioned
carbon
airfield.
emissions.
All
Yeah.
right.
I think the next thing for Bella has to be Trump. You've got to get in front of Trump.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Somehow.
Now, I've got one more question, James, before
Yes.
we move on. In this video, you looked like a sort of modern day, you're striding through the Australian outback. You look like a modern day jackaroo, if you will. Did this individual inspire you in the production of this video?
G'day, I'm Russell Coight and this is my backyard, the Aussie Outback.
He's been my hero for a long time.
I can tell.
The amount of meetings that have to be delayed because Bella's got to catch up on the Russell Coight adventures.
Yeah.
All right. The other part for me is different about this year is a lack of media coverage before our poll came out about Australia Day. Because you think about how intense some of the debates have been in the past. Now, in one sense, that's because the Australian media landscape has, rightly so, been dominated by bushfire coverage the last couple of weeks. But I also start to think, has Changethedate had its time? Like, I don't think it's... have we reached peak Changethedate?
I think we reached peak Changethedate last year, actually. And I think after we released our poll results last year, which were similar to the ones that we released this year, I think we kind of killed the debate.
Yeah.
I think the bushfires also has a lot to do with it. It obviously dominated everyone's lives for a couple of months, and I think something like that really focuses the minds on what's important. And as Jacinta Price always talks about, changing the date is just completely irrelevant to what the Indigenous communities actually need to be talking about.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
similarly here, people losing their homes, people losing livestock, people losing their livelihoods. Why would you be talking about whether we need to change the date of Australia Day on the 26th?
Yeah.
So-
Absolutely
yeah.
right. All right. So, Bella, your poll and your article, that's both available on IPA.org.au. You can watch Bella talk about her results in the video we filmed where she, embraces the spirit of Russell Coight on our Facebook page. I think that's also on our Twitter page and also our YouTube channel. So, Bella, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bella.
That, of course, is the snort of freedom. So we've lost Bella for the rest of this. She's walked out because of the snort. No, but that is a snort of freedom, the Grunt the Pig snort. This is where we do our heroes and villains of the week segment, people that have stood up for liberty and then stood up against liberty. So, Pete, who is your hero of the week?
Well, good question, James. I said at the top of the show, this was one of my favourites for the show today. His name is Laurence Fox, British actor, went absolutely bunter this week. And a big hello to
What
us.
is that?
It means going crazy in South Australian slang. Actually.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
Big hello to our South Australian listeners.
Yeah, especially the ones from 1932 when that was last said.
Come on, mate. He went bunter this week on wokeism on Question Time in the UK, which is the Australian version, the British version of Q&A, really. Now, he's basically...
And usually just as insufferable. But this one was good.
This one was good, yes. Imagine this happening on Q&A, if that's the level of what we're talking about here. Now, he's like a moderately successful actor and musician, right? Let's not get carried away. And to be fair, I hadn't heard of him prior to this
Nor
week.
had I.
But did note he was married to Billy Piper. Now, let's be really... No, sorry, I'm starting to read the quote now. Oh, sorry, I've got a clip for it.
Obviously, as an actor, you have to fly
Yeah,
all over the place.
Yeah, the carbon footprint's huge, but we make up for it by preaching to everyone how they should change their
So, yeah, fantastic stuff there about climate change from Laurence Fox. Now, he went on to have an exchange with someone in the audience about institutional racism. This woman was trying to say, she turned out to be an academic. She was saying that Meghan Markle got the boot because of racism. He said that's not true. England's one of the most... he said it was one of the most lovely countries in Europe. And as a result of this on Question Time, he was basically all over the British press for the last week.
Yep.
Just going nuts and just taking pot shots at everyone. He got into a verbal with Lily Allen, where Lily Allen said that he should stick to the acting, which is, an extraordinary lack of self-awareness.
Well, to be
from
fair,
her.
Lily Allen doesn't act, so she can say stick to the acting.
That is true. Let's give her that one. What was the other one that I really wanted to talk about? Oh, yeah, he said that he doesn't date woke women. Right, and he apparently broke up with his last girlfriend because they had a difference of opinion over the Gillette ad.
It seems a bit
much. There might have been
Yeah.
other issues as well anyway.
You'd hope so. In a sense, you'd really hope there was something a bit more
Yeah.
than the reaction to a
Chalk
30-second
that one off,
ad.
actually, yeah. So that was pretty funny. Look, he just went absolutely nuts. Google him. His Twitter followers have tripled over the last week. And, yeah.
Yeah, so I always go with these things, and we've done this before, but it's like I can't on one hand, get annoyed when an actor or a celebrity spouts out something that I don't agree with, and I go like, "All right, mate, no one asked." But then also praise someone that's on my side. But these clips were actually really good. Like it was genuinely awesome.
Yeah.
And the stuff he was saying was just so non-controversial, but everyone's freaking out about it, and just so real.
That's exactly right. And I did want to say, because we can't show them all, we can only show one. There are heaps of them. Google Laurence Fox's best moments on BBC Question Time. After the show's over, though. Don't do it now.
Yeah.
Just after the show.
Or just come back.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to tell you what to do, but just come back.
just leave
We've
it
already
rolling.
got the download. We don't need them anymore,
Yeah,
but we do
okay.
want you. We don't go anywhere. All right. My hero this week is Grace Jones. Now, the Wiggles, they were having this is a non-political one. So the Wiggles were having a bushfire relief benefit gig. They got the whole old band back together. They haven't, been on stage together for a while, especially not as the Sunday morning show, I guess. But anyway, I was a big Wiggles fan when I was a kid, and they were having the show, and Greg, the yellow Wiggle, the staple of many a childhood out there, had a cardiac arrest. And Grace Jones, who is a 23-year-old nurse, well, I'll let her explain it.
And then someone handed me the defibrillator. I got someone else to take over doing CPR, and I attached the defibrillator to him. And then we shocked him.
She was working on, from the article here, so she worked on Page for 20 minutes before paramedics arrived.
Are you serious?
Saved his life. They said because there were so few defibrillators around. I don't know how to say that name. So, well done, Grace Jones, for not only knowing what that is, but also being able to use it. There's usually a 6% chance of survival in Australia. And so because she was there, because she was so calm, and, I don't want to live in a world without the yellow Wiggle. That is my hero of the week. Grace Jones said, "I don't think of myself as a hero. You are a hero.
Definitely
You're my
hero.
hero of the week." Well done, Grace.
On you, Grace. That's fantastic stuff. Now, you are a big fan of the Wiggles as a child, as you said,
I was.
James.
My fun fact is when I was living in Hong Kong, I went to a Wiggles gig where there were only about 80 people in the crowd. And for people that are of my age, they will know how rare that is as a ticket. That is quite something.
80, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Tell me your own. Must have been quite a thrill for you, James.
Oh, it was. Something to say?
Oh, yeah, you told that to me during the week, and as this big story, and I was sort of I thought that all their gigs had 80 people, but apparently that's really good.
Thousands,
so
Pete.
Congratulations,
Thousands.
James.
Yeah. I know you missed the Wiggles, but trust me, it's a staple of childhood. All right, let's go over to Villains of the Week. So for people that have stood against everything that Grunt the Pig stands for.
Exactly right. Well, I've got this week Deloitte Access Economics. They do a quarterly business outlook, so that sounds boring.
You're losing me. Get the
Don't
defibrillator.
switch off.
Get the defibrillator. I'm out.
So now this quarterly business outlook you have to pay for.
You said it again.
You have to pay for it, so obviously I haven't read it. But they had quotes from it in the Canberra Times, and it's about the ACT and about how the ACT is doing really well, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
It said, the ACT remains the little territory that could. The territory is showing the rest of the country how it's done. Its share of national economic output has risen to 2.2%, its largest ever. Oh, well done, ACT, 2.2%. Give them the biggest participation award in the world. Now, what else happens? So, Deloitte, stop sucking up to the ACT just so you get more government contracts. That's clearly what's going on here. It's very transparent. We can all see it. But there's more. That's the first part. The second part of this is this quote that came out of the report that was reported in the paper, because I didn't get the report. This isn't a major downturn. Population growth is too strong for that, and house prices never did the pump and dump seen in Sydney or Melbourne. The pump and dump, James, was in
It's just a regular economics phrase used all the time.
I thought that some Deloitte grad had just gone absolutely rogue in the media department and thought, you know what, we need to get a little bit more spicy.
Yep.
We're going to put pump and dump in the report. So I Googled it, right? And obviously the Urban Dictionary thing comes
On
up.
a work computer?
Yeah, I'm a cultural researcher, all right? Anything that I search on at work is part of my research. Urban Dictionary comes up, obviously, with the definition of mediocre casual sex. Then the next one...
There's other forms.
says, no comment. And then the next one is, apparently it's an economics thing, right? Denoting the fraudulent practice of encouraging investors to buy shares in a company in order to inflate the price artificially and then selling one's own shares while the price is too high. Those saucy financial people who knew that pump and dump had a legitimate thing.
So what's your point here?
Anyway, the first point was the main point.
The first point's the main point. The other part for me is this idea of Canberra being, the ACT being the little engine that could. Yeah, when you funnel this much money into the public service as the government does, blow me away that one territory does a bit better than all the other states.
What an example to the rest of us.
Yeah, it's like a David and Goliath story, but David has an AK-47 and Goliath can't use his arms. Well done, Canberra. All right, so my villain this week is David Leavitt, who is a Twitter journalist. He says he's from CBS News, but he isn't, so riddle with that. But he does have 210,000 followers. Yeah. So just to give you an idea of this guy, when this guy posts up a photo, 210,000 people get it in their feed. He's a big deal on Twitter. Now, this is the photo he chose to tweet out this week. So he's in Target. He sees that there is a electric toothbrush that is usually on sale for $89, but a label has it as 0.01 cents. Takes it to the kiosk. He is told that's a labeling error. I can't sell it to you that. He then takes a photo of the retail worker, tweets it out saying she won't honor the law. I want to use, because his wording is just so you want to punch this guy. So this Target manager, Tory, is not honoring the price of their items per Massachusetts law. So people are seeing her photo on screen now. And then here's the full thread. I just had to call the police because Target refused to sell me the toothbrush. I did not call 911. I called the business number for the police and told them it was not an emergency and that they'd take their time and explain the situation. The police verified Target, displayed the price of the toothbrush for 1 cent. The store manager, Tory, refused to sell me the toothbrush for the displayed price. The police said I need to sue them, and they asked them making me a verified report to take to court. Corporations like Target are not above the law. The police officer told me they'd testify that they saw the price and that the manager wouldn't sell me the price, the item for the price as listed. Great day for David. Great speaking truth to power that his poor Target manager has to do it. Anyway, there is a happy ending to the story because Twitter users that were like, why the hell would you take a photo of some Target manager and to 210,000 people because you couldn't get a toothbrush? And over $30,000 was raised to give this woman a holiday, just so she didn't have to, just as a return for having to deal with this guy.
Well, that is fantastic. And if this guy's got 200,000 followers, just pay $89, mate.
Just pay $89. That's out of control.
Like, come on, mate. That is unbelievable.
Imagine calling the police business number, just in general.
Yeah. Hang on while I stop people murdering each other.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, have I got a doozy for you, dude? All right, that is it. This is one of those ones where the internet is so often terrible that it's awesome when it's actually good. All right, that is it. Let us now go to our interview with Dr. Anthony Dillon.
Yeah.
Okay, we now welcome on to the show Dr. Anthony Dillon from the Australian Catholic University. Dr. Anthony Dillon, welcome to the show. All right, so you are one of the stars of the IPA's Race Has No Place video, which we came out with Jacinta Price, Lorraine Finlay, and Senator James McGrath. People, if you haven't seen it already, it's on all of our websites, on all of our social medias as well. So we'll start with Indigenous recognition. So what were your central objections to it?
Okay. Many Indigenous people these days just get on with life, whether they be in the city or in remote areas, and obviously those ones in remote areas are finding it more difficult to get on with life. But many of them aren't after recognition. I mean, they already feel secure within themselves who they are. They feel recognised. They've got other issues to deal with. So, just think, okay, if that is going to be a issue to deal with, surely there are a lot more important ones to deal with first. So shift that down, but it seems to be one of the highest priorities.
So one of the things, you wrote an article in The Spectator Australia recently about it, and I absolutely loved it. And one of the ones you talked about was there's this belief now that Indigenous Australians are just this homogenous group, and they all have one individual voice, one collective voice, and that's just that's not the way it is, and it's not the way for any race group in the world. Everyone's an individual. I thought that was really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you homogenise them, then it's easy to have a leader who can, rise and claim to speak on their behalf. So we need to point out that they're no different to non-Indigenous people. There's disagreements between non-Indigenous people on a whole range of topics that affect them personally and not so personally. And so it is for Indigenous people. They have very different views on a whole range of topics.
All right, so another thing in the piece that I really loved was a bit where you said the call for an Indigenous voice is edging closer to separate development and separatism. So what's bad about separatism and what's bad about separate development?
I think I gave another quote there. There was a physicist David Bohm, who said, all problems stem from the belief in, separateness between individuals. The good book says a house divided against itself cannot stand. So, yes, I respect and promote individuality, but, collectively we need to not have this group and that group, or at least not make them so strong. It's great to have a men's group and a women's group and a group for older people and a group for younger people, but it shouldn't become such a strong division where each group is then almost seen as a separate species. So, if you could sum up my beliefs, my thinking in one sentence, it's something I always come back to. With regard to Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, the commonalities between them far outweigh the differences. And the differences should only be considered and addressed after first accepting and understanding that the commonalities far outweigh the differences.
Yeah, another thing with Indigenous recognition, I think, which is if the theory is that like Aboriginal people aren't getting enough representation in Australian Parliament when it's like one vote for an Aboriginal person and one vote for a white person, that's why you need the Indigenous Voice Department. But doesn't saying that we need an extra voice sort of infantilise Aboriginal Australians as well? It's sort of like, you need more help. You can't make your own way in things.
Yeah, look, where I live in Sydney, in my suburb, the local member there, she represents me. Okay, now she's able to represent me even though she's female. She's able to represent me even though she's a different age group to me. I better say she knows who she is. She's younger than me. She's able to represent me even though she's not Indigenous. So I assume she's doing the job well because she's competent at it, not because she ticks some identity boxes.
Right, and with the Race Has No Place video, now that bounced all around the country. It was very popular. It was a great video. As James said, you were one of the stars of the show. So as a response to that, we had Ken Wyatt, the Indigenous Minister, say that we're engaging in bigotry, as in the IPA, for making that video. How did that make you feel as an Indigenous person putting your point of view about this thing, the Indigenous Minister saying that?
Yeah, no, look, it wasn't bigotry, and I admire Ken. And this is a great example of where Ken has a different view to me. We both have Indigenous ancestry, and we're disagreeing. But I admire the guy greatly, and so all I can say is, Ken, I disagree with you on that matter. But I'm sure he and I are in greater agreement on the more important issues. But no, it wasn't bigotry or racist or anything.
Yeah, so that's the thing about this debate is that Ken Wyatt is a great guy and he's doing a lot of great work for Aboriginal Australians.
Yeah,
but then,
and when people always say, "Oh, he's a great Indigenous man," how about he's just a great man?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he used to be a teacher. He's been in the dirt. Great bloke.
Yeah, and then this debate comes along and suddenly one side is bigots. It just feels like there's a level of respect that we're losing when this debate gets so toxic.
Look, I think what might happen is it is so easy for a video like that, which was basically sound, good message, that it does get picked up by some idiots. You get some idiots who will then run with it and distort it.
Yeah.
And they could give it a bad name, but the actual video, the content itself, was fine.
Now, another piece of your piece, which I loved, was the bit when you talked about there's a lot of Indigenous people in this country that are actually thriving, and they managed to do that without a voice. Maybe we should look to how those people did that to help other Indigenous people that aren't thriving. So, how are Indigenous people thriving, and why are they thriving, and what should we take from that?
Okay. Very simply, there's three things that come to mind. The obvious ones, okay? Employment.
Yep.
So they're in places where there is employment opportunities. Education. So the kids are being educated. And third, this is so typical of my case too, great role models. So I had great Indigenous role models in my family. And so for all those who are, and there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, those who are doing really well, they've got a job, they've been educated, and they've got great models, great role models to look to.
Why don't you tell us about a few of your role models?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just all my father's family. Mm-hmm. For example, my father himself, Australia's first Aboriginal police officer. Not a title that he played up greatly, but it is what it is. And and you can check it out, but his achievements in the Queensland Police Force are amazing. other people like Best Price, you know. Again, another person at the front line who tells it how it is. And then there's just many other quiet achievers, like particularly in my father's family, my uncles and aunties and my grandparents, especially my grandmother, just, you know, a full-blooded Aboriginal woman. I know that is not an offensive term to those who want to take offence at it. Just the calmest woman you could ever meet. Just a very calm, simple, loving, caring person. So, you know, I don't have a temperament, wish I did, but it's something I'm aiming to try and have that total peace. People like Ken Wyatt, you know, who have done so well. And, you know, even some of those Indigenous leaders, they get called, who, you know, they're called leaders whom, you know, much of what they say I don't agree with. I still have a lot of respect for them. I think, okay, at least you've made it. You know, you've worked yourself into a position of influence, and I've got to respect that, even if I disagree with your views and arguments.
I mean, like, I'm kind of the same way. Like, so many of my heroes and so many of my favourite artists and authors are complete socialists, but you can just respect them for so many other reasons than, like, those political views. Anyway, to bring it back to Indigenous recognition, like, the way that the media talks about Aboriginal affairs, like, there are only two topics that ever get brought up. It's either Indigenous recognition or, and we're releasing this closer to Australia Day, whether or not Australia Day should change. I don't know whether you want to talk about Australia Day itself, but, like, why are those two debates the ones that have caught the media's attention? Like, that's the only oxygen that ever gets put out.
I guess it's they're convenient ones to talk about. They're a nice distraction from the unmentionables. Child abuse, violence in Aboriginal communities, you know, those sorts of things. We've all seen the images, and many people don't like to talk about those. So the other two, they're easy to talk about, and in a sense they're easy to do, much easier to do than tackle the issues of abuse, poverty, drunkenness, squalor, unclean.
You don't have to leave a big city to make a difference.
Exactly.
You don't have to leave your computer, social media account.
Yes, exactly. You know, it's the same as when you get these keyboard warriors who just shout out, "Yeah, that's racist, and I oppose it." Oh, I feel so good now. You know,
I've done something today.
Yeah, and you've done sweet nothing.
Exactly, yeah. I've just added to the Twitter thing. All right, so, because I genuinely get sick of it when every year Australia Day rolls around and every politician cares about Indigenous issues for like 3 weeks, and then they get to, you know, basically get away with it for the rest of the year. So let's talk about some real issues. Now, you've done a lot of work in mental health. That would be like one of your areas of research. And when you think of like some of the issues that come up with Aboriginal affairs, like, you know, well, drug and alcohol dependency, which is affecting some communities. I mean, that is a mental health issue, and as it is for any race. So do you want to talk about like what are the central issues about mental health in Aboriginal Australians, and then maybe like what are the other big issues that are out there that we should be talking about?
Okay, with regard to the mental health, there's two things that come to mind, and I've already touched on one of these before, jobs. Okay, when you have, so jobs, there's more benefits coming from job other than economic benefits. I mean, it's good to have a job where you get a pay packet and you can buy fresh food and, you know, all that sort of thing. But just as importantly, having a job gives you a sense of purpose. And you are when you have a job, you're contributing back to society. You're also learning, or hopefully you should be, you know, learning. You know, whether it be on training courses or, you know, learning on the job or something, you're getting to exercise the brain. So those sorts of things. And it just reminds you that, hey, I am connected to other people. It's not just about me, but when I have a job, you know, we receive products from this group, we produce this product, we give it to that group, we have these customers, we have these interactions. It reminds the person that they are part of the bigger whole. So employment is very important. It has great psychological benefits. And, you know, if we want to end dysfunction and compromised mental health and suicide, which is another big one, when you get the adults working and the kids into school, you will go a great way to reducing those other evils that I just mentioned.
I was going to say, so what are the issues involved with that? Like, how do we get to more employment? How do we get to these areas that you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about where it's most difficult, you know, the remote areas.
Yep.
That's where you need someone like Warren Mundine, you know, who specialises in enterprise and and that sort of thing, you need to make some tough decisions. In some communities, if they're not viable, a tough decision needs to be made.
Okay.
When and how do you move the people on? And it has to be done in a sensitive manner. So I'm all for boosting that community by injecting funds, if it's going to achieve an outcome or if it's likely to achieve an outcome. But there are some communities where you have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, look, this one is really difficult. The population is so low. Maybe they would be better being shifted, not just ripped up and dropped in a concrete jungle. It's got to be done sensitively, and that's quite a challenge. But they need to be in places where they and their children have the sorts of opportunities that you and I take for granted, and the sorts of opportunities that the protesters take for granted. So, you see all these blacktivists out there, and most of them have benefited from having a decent education. Mm-hmm. So you need to, address those people that are living in the remote areas. You need to deal with cultural protocols. So where you have Indigenous people, where you still have that culture of I've got to share with my family, for many of those people, they think, what's the sense in getting a job if my family are only going to come round and expect their share? So it's a disincentive.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, when I was 15 or 16 or something, we went on a school trip to the Northern Territory, and I went to one of the schools that were being set up because our school was sponsoring them. It was in a rural community, and people were going to school. And I just remember sitting in a classroom of 16-year-old, rural Indigenous kids who were still being taught the 6 times table through AFL scores, and I thought,
good way to learn.
Yeah, but that's the gap. You're 16, you're getting taught the 6 times tables, and I'm on a school trip to the Northern Territory. I just really remember thinking, these are the opportunities that you get when you live in a big city that these kids will never be able to get, and that is a gap that's going to be so hard for them to overcome.
Yeah, and look, again, living in a big city, I'm not saying that is the answer to everything, but living in a place where going to school is seen as normal, watching parents work is also seen as normal, will go a long way to helping these kids. So coming back to mental health, there was a second point I wanted to make, and that is, again, I've touched on it before, that connectedness with other people. So Aboriginal people need to stop seeing their lives solely in terms of their Aboriginality, okay? I look at myself. I'm male, I'm Queenslander,
Brisbane Broncos supporter.
Yeah, born in the 60s. I'm heterosexual. I, was raised with Christian values. All these things make up who I am. And I've got Aboriginal ancestry. I've got English ancestry. They all make up who I am, but not one of those things is everything. My life does not revolve around any one of those things. And for far too long, Aboriginal status has been elevated so high that your life begins and ends with being Aboriginal. And when you view life through that lens of, Aboriginal, not Aboriginal, separation can't help but be formed. So, be proud of your Aboriginality to the same degree that you're proud of your maleness and femaleness and that you live in Queensland or you live in New South Wales or whatever. But see the commonalities between people and just relate to people as equals. Treat others as you treat yourself, because the reality is your neighbour really is yourself.
That's
right.
right.
I have one more question, and that is, so this is mainly for people who are watching on YouTube rather than listening, but Anthony's come in a Brisbane Broncos jersey, and I'm very glad that I'm not the only person that's ever worn a sports jersey on this program. I wore a Denver Nuggets jersey on the first day of the NBA season, so I don't know if you want to spend the last minute maybe trashing a rival or picking up the Brisbane Broncos season.
No, I'll leave that to the expert.
Dr. Anthony Dillon, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got another round of the quiz.
Yeah.
We have a very loaded up panel. We have Gideon wearing the crown from last week. Gideon, Director of Policy here. He's put the crown down, which is an interesting move. I would have
It's up
thought
for grabs.
for intimidatory purposes, I would have maybe worn it the whole way through. But
to be honest, it doesn't fit over my headphones, and I can't be on my game if I'm balancing this crown on my head.
You don't need to tell me twice about this thing struggling to fit on people's heads. We also have, fresh off the interview at the start of the show, Dr. Bella de Brera. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And, of course, as always, the Roof Seal, seal, the one-man trivia machine that is Peter Gregory.
Where does the roof seal motif come from? I've never understood that.
Well, it's a long story, but when I was younger, I climbed on a roof during a party.
Oh, really?
And, people don't forgive you for your sins. And
Just the
here I
one?
am.
Just one roof?
Just once or twice.
I used to prank call the roof seal when I was a kid because the ads would come on late at night when you're sleeping in somebody's
leave
house or
that
whatever.
seal alone.
And
That was you.
No, I used to call up the roof seal and I'd say, I just want to report that my roof is fine and nothing needs to be done with it. No, I brought the house down.
That's
must
the
have loved
Gideon
that.
Rosner
That's why I
School of
started
Comedy. Right
comedy.
there. All right.
Oh, imagine a young Gideon Rosner doing that. Anyway.
Okay, focus up. All right. Sorry, for people whose quiz this is and they're listening at home, this is the first time. It is 1 point for a correct answer, 1 point for an incorrect answer. We've got 9
Minus 1
questions
point.
and then a... What did I say?
You just said 1 point again.
Oh,
Say whatever you want, you get a point.
Say whatever you want. It's whose line is it anyway? Then we've got the Who Am I at the end. All right, sorry. Question 1 from our Australia Day poll.
Okay.
Now, I just think Bella...
The
you're
one that
person-
Bella commissioned.
Yeah, and then,
Oh,
well, I
God.
would have thought as Director of Policy that Gideon Rosner would be across this.
Oh, you assume too much.
All right, so from our Australia Day poll, what percentage of
Bella.
people...
Oh, that is just a massive flex. Sorry, go Bella.
Go on,
11%.
is incorrect. Because the question is, from our Australia Day poll, what percentage of people want to keep Australia Day on January 26th? Gideon.
71%.
That is correct.
That is what you get for
right.
trying to be
You should,
trying
really,
to be too
Bella, you
clever.
should really be more on
I was
top
trying
of
to be
this.
too clever.
You commissioned the research.
Now, question 2, what percentage of people want to change the date?
Bella.
Bella.
Have your point
11%.
back.
There we go.
Back to zero.
Back to zero.
Can we
All
fact
right.
check that?
Well
that answer?
done. All right. Sorry, question 3 now. The New South Wales Environment Minister caused a bit of a stir this week when he said that the Liberal Party were in disarray over climate change. Now, what's that guy's name? Gideon.
Boy wonder Matt Keane.
Matt Keane is correct. I had absolutely no idea who he was, and I did love
He is the
the
Prime Minister.
Scott
Still do.
Morrison. Yeah, the Scott Morrison quote. Like, I don't know if anyone in our cabinet knows who that is, but Gideon does. So, points to Gideon.
Sounds like you got to be keen.
Hi-oh.
There will be no more quiz.
More like Matt Green, am I
There will
right?
be- there will be no more show. That is it.
Let's bring the roof seal.
Good lord. All right. Question 4. How many Australian Opens has Roger Federer won?
Oh, who knows?
Bella.
Bella.
Oh, gosh. 10.
That is incorrect.
Roof.
Roof.
Give us, I reckon, a nice half a dozen.
That is correct.
I
6.
was only 4 off.
All right. Just, the casual
I'm a
4.
sport agnostic.
Sport agnostic. All right. Now, there's a town in Australia that is home to a giant statue of Donald Trump's head.
Gideon.
It's
Ballarat now.
It is correct. Ballarat.
Yep.
Any plans for a road trip up there,
Well,
Gideon?
this is the thing that it was actually it's supposed to be a derisive piece of art that makes him look evil and all sorts of other things. I hope that it becomes like a holy pilgrimage place for like Trump fans to actually go and check out this enormous and you can actually sit inside Donald Trump's brain. I mean, who wouldn't want that experience?
What do you reckon is in there though? Like not the
No,
statue.
I've seen the
think it's
photos
probably
of
just
it. It's
hollow.
like it's flames of like the flames of hell. It's
right.
it's a bizarre piece of art, but as I said, I'd go and see it if I'm.
Yeah, you could do better than that, I reckon.
You could kick that off, Gideon.
Yeah.
Just head down
Next
there.
time in regional Australia.
Yeah, it's an IPA General Members event, the road trip. All right. Now, what is the name of the mysterious new virus
Bella.
coming out of...
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus is correct. Symptoms include being too relaxed in the summer. You can protect yourself by dogging the boys.
He's been waiting all week to say that.
I've said it about 25 times.
Never gets old.
All right. Question 7 or whatever we're up to. I've lost track. What has the Swedish public deemed the biggest...
Gideon. Climate change.
Climate change is indeed the answer. The Swedish public called it the biggest waste of taxpayer money
Quiet
in
Swedes.
2019.
Good
Quiet
Swedes. Good on the
Quiet
Swedes.
Swedes.
Good on the Swedes.
So
Just
not
think
like
Greta
our-
Thunberg, if she's going to tell the whole world how to be, she really needs to start at home. And
Do you
get
think
Sweden
she's just
on
going to
side.
go to the middle of Stockholm and just go, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you,
dare you?
to just random punters in the street?
I mean, someone has to be told. All right, so score check. Bella is on 0, Gideon is on 4, and Pete is on 1.
No, I'm
Gideon
not on
is
0.
I think you got 2 right, but you've also got 2 wrong. You had Roger Federer wrong, and you had the
Okay.
Australia Day first
I'm on
West
0.
wrong. I got so worried there.
It's good. I got worried because I've lost the dunce hat. But anyway,
Yes, lost it.
we'll find that next week.
All right, so question 8. Hillary Clinton said of this person, nobody likes them and nobody
Gideon.
wants to
Bella.
work with them.
Bernie
Gideon.
Sanders.
Bernie Sanders is correct.
That is
Well,
a bit
mate,
rich.
game today. This is
You
great. I
good?
wish I was this good at my job.
That is
Don't
a
we
bit
all?
rich coming
Yeah.
from Hillary Clinton, by the way.
Yes.
Well,
Is she running? That's not a question on the quiz, but I will always kind of think in the back of my head, is she running?
Can she?
She can.
she's leaving it a little
She's
bit late.
leaving it very
now.
late, but
Yeah,
when you've got the
I don't
financial
think she
backers
is, I
that she
think.
does.
Yeah, well.
All right. Last question before we get into the Who Am I. In which city did Trump overnight give his speech on
Bella.
Bella?
Davos.
Davos.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It was.
That was seriously good.
The old Stop Listening to the Prophets of Doom.
Yeah, and she was sitting in the audience, the Prophet of Doom.
Well, there's
So-
more than one.
Prophetess.
There is definitely more than one Prophet of Doom out there.
Prophetess.
Imagine that.
Okay, so coming to the Who Am I, we got Bella on 1, we got Pete on 1, we got Gideon on 5. It is Gideon's to lose. So for anyone for the outright win, and I did not do a tiebreaker question, so for anyone for the outright win, are going to have to get it off the 5-pointer, which is I died 55 years ago this Friday.
Well, wonder who that could be.
Let's think out loud.
2020 minus
Wonder what's
55.
55 years ago.
My maths is lousy.
we're
I'm
all-
gonna get
65. 965.
Died.
That is correct.
Cool, I win. Oh, you mean
It is year 1965.
Yeah.
All right, Bella, do we have any guess?
Bella.
Bella?
Oh,
Was it?
oh, here we go.
Here we go. This would be
George
amazing.
Orwell?
It was not. It was
that.
not George
I
Orwell.
was worried there. That
That is a
Where's
point.
the
to
reasonable
five.
guess.
All right, so Pete, you're the only person that can now even tie it with Gideon.
He's going to guess it now as well.
I would
so-
wait for the next. I don't know who it is, so
Yeah.
I'll take it to the next one and back myself in the penalty shootout.
Here we go.
No. How does that work? You need to get the 5 to draw level or to.
He draws level, which would take us to
Well,
a
then we
penalty
need a
shootout.
penalty
He's
Yeah.
on 5.
He's on 5. You're on 1. Yeah.
Yes, so-
if
So
I go 4,
the next one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep, we're in furious agreement with each other as always.
It's not.
I was born in 1874 in the UK.
It's hard to think of people in that time frame.
Oh, well,
You got a new one?
I suspect I know who it is, but I'm not going to risk going backwards.
That would be a very
I'm
smart
playing
decision.
defensively.
All right, so
So that's what I like about this game. It involves strategy
yes,
as well as
you got to
trivia.
outthink your opponent
You
as
gotta-
well
you
as the
gotta-
quiz
you gotta
master.
work smart and hard.
Because the second part's really easy.
Yeah.
All right, so Gideon is now officially returning champion. Well done. So for 3 points, I was a prisoner of war in the Boer War.
Gideon.
That is a mouthful.
My guess is Winston Churchill.
And you'd be correct.
How could I not get that?
Gideon with an 8.
It's because I was watching The Crown last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Gideon with an 8 is probably the highest score we've ever had, I want to say. It was around where a lot of people got a
That's a
very
feather
high
in my
score.
cap.
I got -1.
Maybe.
All right. Don't know, maybe. Thank you,
Yeah.
Pete. All right,
Good
sweet.
job, though, Gideon.
So,
Put your crown
Gideon,
back on.
you can put the crown back on, as it definitely does not perfectly fit, but it does look good on you. I think you really.
It's got a regal nature.
It's got
Thank
a
you. I
regal
might
nature.
just start wearing it around the office.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying no. All right, sweet. We've got more show for you guys coming up after this. Okay, congratulations to Gideon for the quiz championship. Pete, sorry to miss out on pretty, it got close there at the end.
Gideon's pretty good.
All right, let's fly through 3 stories that have made us laugh this week. Now, this is, we haven't done this one for a while. We wanted to bring it back. We have brought it back, and we brought it back on a good one, if I may say. So this is a Q&A clap.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
This is where we just, give someone who's given a blanket statement of just nothingness that would always get an applause on Q&A. We just want to make sure that they actually do get that Q&A clap,
Yeah.
because that's why people
Well,
that's
they
what
deserve.
people get up out of bed for. They want to be applauded by the Q&A audience.
Absolutely.
Now, this week we're giving the Q&A clap to the New York Times editorial board.
They don't get enough pats on the back.
They do not get enough pats on the back. So the New York Times editorial board endorsement of a Democratic candidate is actually a big deal in the Democratic race. Like if you can get the New York Times on board, it gets you a lot of press and it gets you a lot of like, oh, this is what the serious people want. All the candidates a few months ago sat down with the New York Times editorial board. They got questioned by them on record and off record, and then New York Times goes away and makes a decision. And then they come out. Now, every year, it has just been one person that they acknowledge.
Yeah, forever.
Now, forever.
Yeah.
It's just been like, this is our candidate. Except for this year. And I want you, Pete,
Okay.
to spot the similarity in the 2 people that they come up with.
Yeah.
It is Elizabeth Warren
Okay, yeah, that's a
and
surprise.
Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, interesting.
Now, what strikes you immediately?
They both hate America.
Rough?
Because I was going to say, yeah, well,
Rough.
obviously, it's that they're both women.
Yes.
And that the reason Tulsi Gabbard didn't also get endorsed was because she doesn't hate America.
Yeah, and well, she didn't go to the New York Times editorial board meeting, but
Okay.
yeah, so it's also that. But it's like, even if you wanted to that, like they don't even agree on policies. Like Klobuchar's a moderate, Warren is not.
More radical.
All these other things, they put it as if there was ever time to be open to new ideas, it is now. If there were ever a time to seek stability, now is it. So there's nothing more stable than having 2 presidents. That's why we're endorsing the most effective advocates for each approach, that being the pragmatic center and the idealist out. They are Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar. I just think it's like the New York Times editorial board have sat around and go like, oh, you think out there, American public think it's progressive to think a woman should be president?
Yeah.
Well, we think 2 women should be.
Yeah,
What do you got now?
Yeah, exactly right.
Next, we're going to endorse 3 candidates.
Yeah.
And like, I also, they could also have gone, who would really make a good president?
Who's that?
The girl reading this.
James. Yeah.
That's how I would have thought.
Obviously, completely patronising to women, just be like, well, any woman will do.
Yeah.
And if they think Elizabeth Warren's going to beat Trump, they're absolutely high.
All right, there we go. All right. Now, Pete, you saw something about the Extinction Rebellion this week.
So the UK Guardian reported on Monday that the City of London Police labelled Extinction Rebellion one of its key threats. In a counter-terrorism assessment and provided awareness training as a result of that. This included including them in anti-radicalisation materials alongside violent far-right groups and jihadist groups. Now, the City of London does not. They came out and said we do not consider Extinction Rebellion to be a terrorist organisation. However, various teachers and other people that get that anti-radicalisation training have said no, but you mentioned it in my training
specifically.
So we felt like we wanted to tell the City of London Police, guys.
I just think if you work in counter-terrorism and you tell people, look out for Extinction Rebellion, it's kind of implicitly saying that, you think that they're terrorists.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why would you bring them up?
Yeah, exactly right. And we're telling them that you don't have anything to worry about.
Yes.
They're going to hit you over the head with a celery stick.
Well, here's the thing. So, Daily Mail article a few days ago, there was an Extinction Rebellion protest in Melbourne where all of the protesters literally buried their heads in the sand.
Exactly right.
I think we'll be okay.
We're going to be okay.
There was one caption on a photo which said the colourful demonstrators sung there was a climate crisis with the assistance of ukuleles and other instruments. If the worst thing I have to fear from Extinction Rebellion is a ukulele attack, I think I'll be okay.
Exactly right. And as
I'll be slightly annoyed, but I'll be okay.
Some ukulele music can be quite good.
Outside the state of Hawaii, no. Blanket no.
The only examples I have are Hawaiian. But the other thing, and I say this every time we talk about Extinction Rebellion, last October in Melbourne, Extinction Rebellion did a nudie run to save the climate.
Oh, for the love
Josh,
of God.
roll the tape.
Extinction Rebellion protests entered their 6th day. The activists are trying to pressure the Australian government to take serious and effective action against climate change.
As you can tell, that was not a nudie run because they were wearing clothes.
God, we get it.
We have nothing to fear
week
from
on
these
this
people.
show.
Nothing to fear.
The only thing I have to fear is that clip being shown again. The other part for me, so you can look at it from 2 perspectives. It's either one that the City of London police are lowering the bar of what constitutes a terrorist, or the other way would be like maybe terrorism is lowering the bar themselves, because I don't know if you saw this photo, or the people out there listening saw this photo of ISIS leader, and you don't need to see a photo when it's called this, but the captured photo in Iraq of ISIS leader Jabba the Jihadi over the weekend. And to give people a taste, if they still don't quite get the idea, they couldn't fit him in a police car because he was too big, so they needed to get a truck.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. So maybe just like, well, we got to look at someone. We can't look at Jabba the Jihadi anymore. So maybe Extinction Rebellion are terrorists.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, something to think about.
All right, so the last thing we want to talk about on the show is sports awards. Now, this is something that's been dominating Australian political media this week. It is Senator Mackenzie, the Deputy Nationals leader. She oversaw a controversial $100 million sports fund, which auditors found was used to dole out money to marginal electorates ahead of last year's general election. So you got a marginal electorate, they've got a local sports club. They might be given a little bit of money. And it's sweet coin. Just remember who did this for you. The most egregious one I saw was she gave a $35,980 grant to the Wangaratta Clay Shooting Club in Victoria without publicly declaring that she was or is a club member.
What do
that would come up?
Yeah. What does a shooting club need $35K for?
Yeah, more clay pigeons. Never enough. Now, Pete, I understand this story really spoke to you.
It did speak to me, James, and I'm glad you brought this up because, as you know, and as the listeners know, I play for a cricket club called the Deaners. Mighty Deaners.
Mighty Cricket.
So I'm struggling already.
Mighty Cricket, Mighty Deaners is a great slogan.
This is why we need your help, Bridget. So my cricket club, the Mighty Deaners, need your help, Bridget Mackenzie. We've only won 2 games. And
out of?
About, you put me on the spot, like 9.
Okay, so it's not 2.
Last.
It's not 2.
We're sitting last. And we're going to get relegated unless we win a few games. Our 2 international players have gone home.
Oh,
Fox.
no. Fox. I am across the Deaners. That is bad. That's a bad sign.
And we're knee-deep in a relegation dogfight. Now, we know that you love splashing the cash in marginal electorates. Kooyong is where the Deaners are located.
That was my first question. Is the Deaners in a marginal seat?
Well, you know that... What's his name? Julian Burnside got 21,000 votes at the last election. Kooyong is becoming a marginal seat because rich people love climate change. And woke rich people love nothing more than feeling good about themselves. But what they do love more than that, Bridget, is that they love awesome cricket facilities for Cecilia and little Herbert. And they love giving money to get a brand new bar called the Bridget McKenzie Bar. Bridge for short.
Bridge for short.
Now, I know you like only giving money to sports clubs.
Is the thing holding back the Dean is the lack of a bar?
No, we've got a bar. We'll just name it after you.
All right.
And now,
it's like, I think the money can be put into training.
Yeah, maybe. And so I know you like giving money to sports clubs that you're connected to. So, Bridget, I'm offering you a position on the Deaners Committee, a very prestigious committee, opens doors all over town, particularly the Hayes Paddock Bar. Yep. If you can give us a little bit of that sweet, sweet coin. So if you don't, help us soon, Bridget, we'll have to get Bolt to play, and that will be everything. The
offer to be your coach for a week still stands.
See what I mean? We need the money.
The offer to be a coach. Would you also accept sports awards from Julian Burnside? Because you say that's another player in the field. I don't know if you can be picking winners at this stage.
We accept all kinds. If Julian Burnside wants to get behind the Deaners, then we can do it.
What's that? The Bernie Bar.
Bernie Bar, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll serve, I don't know, whatever Julian likes to eat.
All right, balls in your court, Bridget McKenzie. You can speak to me directly as the Deaners PR manager. That is it for the show this week. Thanks again to Dr. Anthony Dillon and Dr. Bella DeBrew. I don't think we disgraced ourselves talking to high esteem academia. I think we kept things up. We're talking mainly about cricket and drinking at the end. That is it for the show. Thanks again to all you people listening. If you are listening through iTunes, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. You can even do the subscribe and unsubscribe. It boosts us up through the ratings. I know all the ways you can do this. And we're also available on YouTube and Facebook, so I'm waving to the people on there. So if you do prefer the podcast through there, if you know people who would like the show and they would prefer their podcast through that, make sure you're letting them know about it. If I miss anything?
No, that's it. I expect to say thanks to Josh. Saul's away on leave at the moment, so thanks, Josh, for helping us out.
Thank you, Josh. All right, see you guys next week.
See ya.